So in my last video, I criticized the Prime Minister of Israel for his stance on what this righteous Israeli soldier did to the head of a statue of Jesus. And I'm going to read some of this article. And he promised harsh punishment for these two soldiers who did this. Israeli soldiers punished over vandalism of Jesus statue in Lebanon. The Israeli soldier who hit a statue of Jesus with a sledgehammer in Lebanon and the soldier who photographed the incident will receive 30 days of military detention, the IDF said. The soldiers who have not been named would be removed from combat duty following an inquiry. Another 6 soldiers who were at the scene and failed to intervene or report the incident will be dealt with separately, it added. So, and the incident in the village of Debel in southern Lebanon prompted widespread condemnation after an image of it was widely shared online this week. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Mikhailovsky, I'm not going to say his chosen last name because he has dishonored it. He does not deserve that name. Why does he not deserve the name that he took upon himself, that Hebrew name? Because he has tried to placate the Christians, the forever enemy of the Jew. So he was stunned and saddened by what had happened. And in a statement on Tuesday, the IDF said an inquiry into the incident had determined that the soldiers' conduct completely deviated from IDF orders and values and expressed deep regret over the incident. It was also said that the IDF troops had replaced the damaged statue in full coordination with the local community a short while ago. So you're going to go now to placate your forever enemy, the Christian, by setting up a graven image in dishonor of Jehovah Elohim of Israel. This is what you're going to do. And let's see here. So that's just another. I don't need this. So now, doubling down on foolishness, the Israeli Prime Minister and the government of Israel appoints its first ever special envoy to Christian world after controversial incidents. A special envoy to the Christian world? After all the things that the Christian world has done to the Jews? Israel announced on Thursday the appointing of its first special counsel to the Christian world following some recent embarrassing incidents directed at the faith's adherents. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar appointed a veteran diplomat, George Deek, to this newly created role, saying the move is intended to deepen Israel's ties with the Christian communities around the world. He is a member of the Arab Christian community in Jaffa. So he goes and appoints a Christian be some kind of mediator between the Jews and the Christians. You're going to appoint an Arab Christian to do this. His father, Yosef Deek, was the chairman of the Christian Orthodox community in Jaffa and Israel for many years, said the foreign ministry. The foreign ministry said of George Deek. State of Israel attaches great importance to its relations with the Christian world and with its Christian friends around the world. Well, I'm here to tell you that your Christian friends are going to stab you in the back again, or at least they're going to attempt to do so. But there will be two prophets that after the great meteor shower on the Mediterranean Sea that is predicted, those two prophets are going to rise up to gather all Israel, and look, there's going to be a nuclear exchange before the two prophets stand up. They're going to gather all Israel from Tarshish, meaning beyond the pillars of Heracles. And in case you don't know what that means, you better find out. That would be the Americas and even Britain. They're going to gather them from the coastlands of the Mediterranean Sea. They're going to gather them from Egypt and from Assyria. And Assyria in the old days encompassed most of Syria today, where, incidentally, my forefathers came from. They are going to toss out every graven image in the land of Israel, crush them. In fact, Moshe says something about it. I'll find it here in just a second. Is it? I may have to Google it. Long-haired heads of the enemy. Right, there it is. Long-haired heads of the enemy is a phrase in the biblical song of Moshe in Deuteronomy 32:42, describing divine vengeance. It refers to a total defeat of adversaries, specifically mentioning long-haired heads. Now, long hair. If you the kings of Europe had long hair. Watch this. Okay, Merovingian dynasty, Franks. You know who they are. Long hair was a secret weapon often combined with beards and was never cut, symbolizing virile strength. Cutting the hair of a Merovingian king was a supreme insult and a method of removing them from power. Symbolism. In the early medieval Europe, long hair separated free aristocratic men from slaves. The slaves often had their heads shaved, and it was viewed as a symbol of power and pride, and sometimes even possessed a sacred quality. Later periods, while the Merovingians were defined by it, long hair had remained a staple for many kings, with trends changing to wigs in later periods, notable under King Louis the whatever number that is, of France. All of these European kings had long hair. It was their thing. Now, let us go then and go to Deuteronomy 32 and verse 42. Verse 42. For their rock, who's he speaking of? Not as our rock. So, their Jesus, the Jesus of the Gentile, the Christians, is not the Yehoshua of Israel. The enemy, a judge. Their vine, the vine of the enemy, is the vine of Sodom, and their fields of Gomorrah. I have been stating for years that if San Francisco is Sodom, then Washington, D.C. is Gomorrah. Of course, I say that in a figurative way. And it's the same way with Rome. It's the same way with Moscow. It's the same way with London. It's the same way with Paris. It's the same way with all of the cities of Europe. Their grapes are the grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons. The wine that woman has in her golden cup. You scripture readers know these things. The rest of you need to catch up. And the cruel venom of asps, laid up in store, sealed up as is in the storehouse. Vengeance and recompense, their foot shall slide at the appointed time. For the day of their calamity is near, and the thing shall come upon them in haste. It's going to happen quickly. Jehovah will judge his people and be sorry for his servants' sakes when he sees that their power is gone and there is a ceasing to restrain. Because you see, the enemy refuses to restrain themselves against the Jew. Then he will say, Elohim, Sur, seek refuge. You ate of the fat of the sacrifices and drank the wine of the drink offerings. Let them rise up and be your protection. And this is what the Israelis are doing right now. The Israeli government is doing right now, so seeking protection from their enemy. That's going to change because we just read it. It is I, even I. Or it should read, Elohim, I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal. There is nothing that can deliver out of my hand, for I lift up my hand unto the sky, and I say, I live forever. I will sharpen my lightning sword, that's right, my lightning sword, and my hand will take hold of judgment. I will recompense vengeance on my enemies, and I will reward them that hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives of the of the head, Rosh, the head, their long-haired leader, word origin, feminine of locks. That long-haired Jesus. But the problem is with you Christians, you are delusional. I can show this to you to your face. Your IQ might be above 130, but your delusion keeps you from understanding the truth. This is the long-haired Jesus. Those two soldiers correctly crushed the head. And it says right here that he's going to crush the head of the long-haired leader of the enemy. The long-haired leader of the enemy. That long-haired leader of the enemy is Jesus. All right. Now, I'm going to ask a question. Is there any denomination at all among the Christians that considers itself equal, or that considers the Jews equal with them? Now, I checked AI, and AI sometimes gets it right and sometimes has no idea and sometimes gets it flat out wrong. So mainstream, and their answer was not an answer. I wrote here, is there any denomination that considers the Jews their equals? They say mainstream Judaism teaches that all human beings are chosen in the divine image and are equal. Within Judaism, the concept of being chosen does not denote ethnic superiority, but rather a covenantal relationship with not God, but Elohim, which is believed to exist alongside a relationship between Jehovah Elohim and all mankind. So the Judaism's version is correct. What about Christianity? Is there any denomination among Christianity? Well, here's what they say here. While history shows one thing, many modern Christian denominations emphasize theological equality, but their history shows the opposite. So they say one thing and they do another. Interesting, isn't it? All right. So the closest thing that any church will come to do denominations consider the Jews equal, but this is not even, I say come close to, but that's not even true. It's not close. The view that the church goes to heaven while Israel has a kingdom on earth is a hallmark of mid-acts dispensationalism, which distinguishes between two separate divine programs: the church's heavenly hope, rapture, and Israel's earthly kingdom promise. While Israel expects a physical kingdom ruled by the Mashiach on the earth, Acts 1 verse 6, the church is seen as a mystery body destined for heavenly places. That is not true. And I have proven over and over again that what they call the rapture is actually the gathering of all Israel as quoted in Isaiah 60 verse 8. That's right, on flying ships. But again, many of you Christians, you have IQ above 130. And yet when you read that passage, you will not make the connection, not because you are unable to make that connection, but because you are unwilling to make that connection. So why does the church think that they're going to go to heaven? Where did that come from? Okay, so Google gets this one right. Google AI gets this right. The belief that human souls goes immediately to heaven upon death has deep roots in ancient pagan, Babylonian, and Egyptian religions rather than the foundational biblical teachings. Well, ain't that something? Ancient origins, early pagan religions believed that the soul was immortal and continued to exist after death, a concept that evolved in Babylon and Egypt. Okay. So my point to the government of Israel, these Christians will turn on you again. When the two prophets, Moshe and EliYah, come to save Israel from the nuclear wasteland that the land of the Gentiles has become, the Christians are going to lead an army to invade Israel. That's what they're going to do. It's written about in Ezekiel 38 and 39. But it's also written about in Revelation 11. Actually, I believe. So we'll read about this here. And there was given unto me a reed like unto a rod, and the messenger stood and said, Rise and measure the temple of Jehovah, and the altar that, and them that worship therein. That is, the temple in Jerusalem before it was destroyed. But the court that is outside the temple, cast it out, not leave it out. Throw it out, banish it, throw it out. And measure it not, for it is given to the Gentiles. And the holy city they shall tread under 42 months. And they did this from 66, 66 to 70, or no, it was from 70 to 74. CE. And I will give power unto my two witnesses that they prophesy, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. That's in response and retaliation. Well, what do you mean, Henry? It didn't happen. Well, it's going to happen. It doesn't say how many years it's going to take before the revenge comes. We just read that he's going to take revenge. After there is proven that no one is going to help Israel, that their Christian enemies will not help them. We read that in Deuteronomy 32. These are the two olive trees and the two lampstands standing before the Elohim of the earth. And you theologians If you read 1 Kings, you'll know exactly what he's talking about. Both EliYah and Elisha, those two prophets, used the exact same term. The Elohim of the earth before whom I stand. Google it. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth. Well, EliYah the prophet called fire down from the sky. That's how fire came from his mouth. To destroy two captains and their 50 soldiers that came to come and get him. And devour their enemies, and if any man will hurt them, he must be in this manner be killed. Now, what was the purpose of EliYah the prophet? To turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the children to the abbas, I should say. It's written in there. Just read it, folks. These have the power to shut the sky. Did EliYah the prophet have the power to shut the sky? He did for 3.5 years. EliYah the prophet shut the sky with his mouth for 3.5 years in the entirety of the Middle East. He did it to Israel. But these two prophets are going to do it to the Gentiles. That it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and they have the power over the water to turn them into blood. Does that sound familiar? The power of Moshe. And to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. The power of Moshe. That's the reason why I say Moshe and EliYah. Is it the literal? No, it's not. Because Moshe and EliYah are now, their legacy stands until they are raised from the dead. But these two will be living men, and very possibly, folks, the possibility might be extremely remote. But it is very possible that those two prophets are the ones who crushed the head of the Jesus graven image in Lebanon. I'm not claiming that I have the ability to know. I do not have any idea who those two prophets are going to be. All I'm saying is pay attention, because those two prophets are going to do exactly what those two soldiers did. And I'm warning the government of Israel that these two prophets will have the ability to sever out all evil from the land of Israel. They'll be given that power. And if you get in their way, they have the ability to sever you out of Israel, even if you are the prime minister. Benjamin Mikhailovsky, you have been duly warned, and your envoy to the Christian world, you also have been duly warned. And once they have finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the abyss, the abyssos, I showed you where the abyssos was. It's on either side of the Italian boot. That's right, the abyssal zones of the Mediterranean Sea. shall make war against them and shall overcome them. That's after their work is done, their power will be gone, and the beast that rises out of the abyssos are going to kill them. Why? So that they will be guilty. So that these Christians, yes, I said Christians, and the rest of the world will be guilty of murdering the prophets. And so they will have to have the same punishment come upon them as came upon Israel for killing the prophets. And their dead bodies shall line the streets of the great city. All right. Use your brains, folks. When has Jerusalem ever been called the great city? Jerusalem is one of the smallest cities in the world. Jerusalem has never been called a great city. Well, you will say, and it's spiritually called, or figuratively called, Sodom and Egypt. Then you will say, where also our master was fenced to crucify. Yehoshua was not crucified inside the walls of Jerusalem. So it wasn't Jerusalem. The Romans did it. So it's Rome. Am I wrong? You want to prove me wrong? He was not crucified inside the walls of Jerusalem. He was done outside the walls. And they, the people, and the kindreds, and the tongues, and the Gentiles of the Gentiles. Saw their dead bodies 3.5 days, and will not allow their dead bodies to be put in graves. And those that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts to one another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwell upon the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the Ruach of life from Jehovah Elohim entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them that saw them. And they heard a great voice from the sky saying, Come up here. And they ascended up to the sky in a cloud, and their enemies, while their enemies were watching. Now, if they were in Jerusalem, would their enemies be watching? No. They were in the street of the city of their enemy. The implication here is Rome beheld them, and in the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake was slain 7,000 men. The remnant, that would be the Jews, were affrighted and gave glory to the Elohim of heaven. They were thankful and probably even dancing in the streets. The Jews were in Jerusalem. Now, here, what we have is a synopsis of what just happened. And it starts with the woman and the dragon. Now, the woman is not the church. The woman is Israel, because the church did not conceive and bring forth a Mashiach. Israel did. Now, when the Mashiach was raised from the dead, there was a war in heaven. Why? Because there was no place found in heaven for, in other words, somebody else took the dragon's place, and the dragon had to be cast out. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman. How did he do it? Well, he did it with the Roman kings. And then the little horn, the man at the Vatican. That's how he did it. And he continued to do it for nearly 2,000 years, culminating to the Holocaust. Which the Christians were responsible for and admitted that they're responsible for. And I've showed you over and over and over again the Wikipedia Judensaw. You look that up, you'll find it there. They admit that Christianity was responsible for the Holocaust. Therefore, if you call yourself a Christian, you are individually, even after the fact, responsible for the murder of the Jews, which brought forth a man-child, and to the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, that the woman is Israel, into her place, into Eretz Israel, where she is nourished for, it says, not a time, but she is nourished there for a season and a half. From the face of the serpent, and the serpent cast out his mouth water as a flood after the woman. That is the Ezekiel 38:39 war. That he might cause her to be carried away from the flood. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened its mouth in a great, great earthquake. Ezekiel 38:39, especially 39. It describes this earthquake and what this earthquake does to these men who invade. And swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and he lost that war. So he went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Jehovah, and have the testimony of not Jesus Christ, but Yehoshua. Or, as it should be spoken, Yehoshua. See it? Right there. In no way does that name resemble Jesus. In fact, I've proven today that Jesus is the enemy of Yehoshua. And I'm warning both the leaders in Israel who want to kiss the Christians' asses, and to all Christians around the world, that the 2 prophets are coming. You cannot stop them. You don't know who they are. I don't know who they are, but they are coming, and they are coming with great power, and you can't stop them until their work is done. And when their power is taken away from them and you kill them, you will all be collectively responsible, you Christians and the rest of the Gentile world. You will all be collectively responsible for the curses that come to you because you murdered the prophets.